All right. I'll call the February 3rd, 2022 meeting of the Riley County Commissioners to order. Please rise and join me in the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, nice brisk morning. You have Clancy on Zoom. Did you have something for us, Clancy?
Not right now. I'm going to, whenever it's appropriate, I'm just going to ask to table the executive session I've got during my admin time. It can be tabled to next Thursday. It's nothing urgent. It's an update.
I can go ahead and do that now if you want. I'll go ahead and make a motion that we table the executive session during Clancy Coleman's administrative services time to next Thursday, February 10th.
I would second that.
And moved and seconded to table the executive session till next week. All those in favor?
Aye.
Um,
And make sure I got my date right.
Yeah.
It's February already.
Thanks very much.
Yesterday was 2/2/22.
Mm-hmm. Groundhog's Day. That damn groundhog.
What happened to him? I didn't hear.
We got 6 more weeks of winter.
No.
Although his girlfriend says that he's a compulsive liar, so I'm not really sure what to expect out of that.
All right. Yeah, doesn't appear to be any public comment. Nobody's out. So start with commissioner comments. Yeah.
Okay, good morning. On Monday after the commission meeting, I met with Russell Stuckey to touch base and discuss fire services in the county. We also discussed some background information on the North County Emergency Services. And then we made a plan to tour all the fire stations in the next 2 weeks, starting Monday. So that would be really good for me.
Yes.
Monday evening, I attended the Livestock Association banquet at Potter Hall. It was well attended, and there was a great steak dinner served. They did have a local business meeting followed by the speaker, Mike Bean, who is the Secretary of Agriculture with the Kansas Department of Agriculture. And there was a lot of things going on, but they did have a silent and live auction, plus drawings for door prizes. Didn't win anything, but everybody seemed like everybody did. It was great. So it was really a good event. Glad I attended. Tuesday, I met with John Ellerman over Public Works, and we discussed updates on several pending projects, including the High Plains Ranch Road, which has been delayed due to asphalt plants not being opened. And the Keats and University Park wastewater systems. Later that afternoon, I attended the Common Table Board meeting via Zoom. Among other items, we discussed the meeting held on the East Campus future utilization. Apparently, they've kind of changed it there, somehow, and group was kind of taken aback because they, originally it was most of the building. Now they're kind of limiting it to the cafeteria and a couple classrooms, so nobody really knows what's going on. So we've got some time to work through it, I suppose. Wednesday morning, after I did a lot of snow removal, I got up on some projects around the house. Snow removal didn't do a whole lot of good because after I scooped some snow, then the wind blew them shut. So I just, I probably gave up. So I did attend the Heartland Works meeting via Zoom after lunch. They have a new executive director, Gina Kaufman, who's come back. She was working in the Topeka office. And so she was welcomed by the board, and she's really, that's hit the ground running. An audit report was made by John Henning for the years ending 1/30/20 and 1/30/21. Heartland's Works is considered a low risk for auditing due to its good financials. And they did say that program activities make up $2.1 million in spending. Branding of the new workforce centers is going on, and they're going to feature a new logo, which look really good. And then a plan for rebranding all the centers with common identifiers. So each center, including ours, will need to choose its name because they want everyone to have a new name. So we could have, like in Manhattan, we could have Kansas Works Manhattan, we could have a regional identification, or you might be thinking about that because they want to have that done by the end of the month. I'm sure the chamber will probably have that. The city will probably have some ideas also. So if you come up with any good ideas, just let me know. Also discussed was that the lease in Manhattan on 4th Street is owned by Icon, which will expire soon. They will go month to month, but the landlord is potentially selling that property for that new art museum. So various locations were discussed. Also discussed was, do we need a location? And pretty much consensus was that we do. They did talk about the Manhattan Town Center that has a lot of open spaces that might make a good deal to the board. But their leases are like for 5 years. So, you know, I don't know, but sounds like they're willing to really do all the tenant finish on the inside. So that's one spot. And then they talked about a couple other spaces too. And the chamber was working with, working in a couple spots. So, but we can go month to month. So I don't know how long it will take for the sell. So public comment. So the lease in Topeka, their space is also going to have to be renewed or vacated. Staff consists of 4 people that mainly work remote. They use it mainly for, they've got 5,000 square feet of space over there that really isn't being used. So it's probably going to be up to vacate that lease and try to get someplace else that's much smaller, if anything. The meeting ran over quite a bit, so a quorum was not available to take action on that item. So the new director will send us a report by email, which I saw came in this morning, since the meeting had to adjourn. That was the longest meeting I've been to with the Heartland Works. So it lasted over 2 hours. So I was planning to attend the West Loop Business Association meeting, but I couldn't because of that length of it. So that's all I have. Busy week.
Okay, well, got started with me. And speaking of the West Loop Business Association, I spoke with Ed Kleemat, who's president there. Discussed a couple of topics, including our Economic Development Committee. He had some interest in that, but lives in the city. So you probably know most of the people that ended up on that board. Feel free to shoot some ideas, be part of the conversation and dialogue. So I need to find some time to head over to one of their meetings. It's on Wednesday afternoon. So
Yeah, that's a good meeting.
it is. It fits right into my Wednesday afternoon work schedule typically. So it's hard to get freed up for that. So Monday evening, I also attended the Riley County Livestock Association annual meeting and banquet. It's good to have it back in person. I went in 19. As I was just coming onto the board, so nobody I don't think even knew who I was at that point in time. Planning on attending in 2020, but got sick and couldn't go. And then of course, last year they didn't have it. So it's good to get back in person. And we really enjoyed a great evening of catching up with everyone. Steak was good, baked potato, call ice cream, can't go wrong there. Just can't go wrong there. As it's been mentioned, Mike being a secretary of Agriculture for the state, I thought he gave a very insightful, encouraging keynote address, had a lot of depth, useful information on the state of agriculture here. And I don't know what it is, but that particular meeting is the only meeting where I win raffles.
Are you want?
I did. I won a homemade pie from the Fork in the Road up in Riley. So
cool.
It's in the freezer. I've got a dedicated purpose for that later. A peach pie, I might add.
Oh,
so
you're going to bring it in here.
That wasn't the purpose on that.
Okay.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pies. That's just how that's gonna work. Have to get some homemade ice cream or maybe some
I'll bring
vanilla.
alcohol ice cream.
We'll talk later. We'll talk later
It's
on
just one of
that.
those individual servings.
Yeah.
Pies.
Oh.
Yeah, they have those
Oh, was?
little.
No.
Oh.
No,
Yeah.
I don't know what your idea of individual servings are, but it's not the same as mine. We'll just leave it at that. I think it went really well, and I'm glad I had the time to take time out to catch up with that. And I think they do a really, really good job here locally. So, and there was quite a bit of silent auction items this time around too. There wasn't the last time, if I remember correctly. So I was joking with Gary Fike. I said, "Oh, if I do win a raffle, it'll be my luck. It'll be a 50-pound bag of corn."
Yeah.
So it didn't work out that way. And I was the first one to win. You notice that?
Yeah.
Yeah, my ticket was very first. So
Wow.
thought about going out and buying some lottery tickets. Actually, I didn't though. Yesterday morning, I guess, I attended a Zoom town hall through the Kansas Association of Counties with U.S. Senator Jerry Moran. It kind of bounced back and forth between staff as they were in the middle of votes there up in D.C., but answered a lot of good, solid questions. Obviously, COVID recovery and I guess the price of commodities and farm implements and things are of real concern, and obviously they should be. So that was pretty much most of the dialogue there. Also, yesterday afternoon, I listened in on the Department of Commerce webinar discussing the BASE program, Building a Stronger Economy. It's a new grant opportunity to support infrastructure and economic development opportunities throughout Kansas. This grant is going to be administered through the Kansas Department of Commerce, as was proposed by the SPARK Executive Committee back some time ago. SPARK, of course, is strengthening people and revitalizing Kansas. Goal is to expand the state's base of businesses and residents in the area. Some of the areas that this will cover will be railroads, water, wastewater, stormwater. I think it's something we need to look into here locally on that. See if there's some grant opportunities to help out with those, because as we're all aware, we're having difficulties there. Also includes other utilities, potentially broadband and wireless, as well as cybersecurity. Also included in this, which I thought was interesting, is renovations of existing business parks.
Really?
Yeah. This includes driveway aprons, parking, and even speculative industrial office. I use the word speculative because that's kind of a hot button topic right now. Speculative industrial office and residential space opportunities. So not really defined maybe at this point in time. I guess there'll be some I'll get a little bit more specific somewhere along the way there. So
Did they talk about what kind of dollars were available?
no, this one here is, it seems like you're still trying to pull pots of money and try to figure things out. Probably have to get through appropriations first, kind of see where everything kind of adjusts. But we're kind of in the midst of those application deadlines right now. So if we want to make one, we probably better be thinking about it, getting on it pretty quick. I think, like I said, for particularly wastewater and stormwater for us and water, those are going to be very, very important. We can pull in some of those grant dollars. It would certainly help offset some of the issues that we're having and really everybody's having. So looks like K-State won last night. This Oklahoma State, last second shot.
Yeah.
I had to think to myself, did hell freeze over? And then I looked at the temperature and thought, well, yeah, actually, maybe it did. Maybe that explains a whole lot of different things. Also, unfortunately, it looks like Iowa State got the best of K-State girls once again, pretty handily. I don't know what the deal is there. We just don't match up well against them. Maybe it's a confidence thing. Yeah, it's been that way for a decade. Seems like it's been a long time since we beat them there, but guess we'll have some games over the weekend, so we'll just see how it goes. So outside of that, got some snow, measurable snow. I guess it might be a good time to also put in a plug once again to county and city crews. Yesterday morning, I was out and around at 5:30 going to work yesterday, and KDOT was behind the 8 ball yesterday. That was pretty apparent. But city and county, I've seen trucks rolling all over the place. So they're out and about, and we certainly appreciate their their work. It's important, even when everything's closed. That's all I got.
All right. Well, on Monday after meeting, I met with Elizabeth Ward to discuss the end of the year evaluations. I've been trying to set me with her, just had some ideas on what we can do. We go through the improvements that are going to be needed. She's going to be working on that to get something more useful to everyone for next year. And I also talked to Julianne up at the appraiser's office about some residents who had called me with questions, and they had come in because I went really between a few times. She came in and got their questions all resolved. A lot of it was just misunderstanding between the two residents, and they said, "Well, she said this." And I know she didn't. Anyway, everything straightened out. Everything works fine. They were, I don't know where they were getting some of their stuff, but they got them all resolved. And then I had another point with someone, but which second week in a row that someone had to cancel a meeting because the daycare quarantine had been shut down, so they had to go home. And then Monday evening, I also attended the Raleigh County Livestock Association. They've all discussed what's going on there. And one of the things I got to meet several, people I knew, but also I met a lot of new people and had a really good time. Marvin.
Oh, Marvin.
That's the neatest guy.
He's a great guy.
He is. Really
He's a
neat guy.
runner.
Yeah, that's why I looked up.
10 miles.
He ran, so I found an article, he ran on his 90th birthday, he did 90 laps. He's the one I read about. He's
Yeah.
90, and he's 91 now. I assume he did the same thing this year.
I hadn't seen him for a long time. He goes to my church.
Yeah, that's what he told me. He
Yeah,
said,
he's a great guy.
can't come to my church, where is she? I said, one day. And then Tuesday evening, I attended Leonardville City Council meeting, talked about the upcoming ambulance meeting and the Rural Economic Advisory Board. I got to meet Sergeant Doling, who's the new North County lead for the RCPD. And actually, as he's corrected, his former director Butler was there because he'd been going around to make a final say to each one. And last month he had gotten sick and missed that, so he came in the day after. Even after he's off, he's still going around the meetings. So.
That's nice.
And then, like I said, last night I attended the K-State Oklahoma State basketball game. Cold day to get in and out of there, but it was exciting back and forth, and we came out on top this time, so that was good. And that's all I had. Go ahead and get started.
First item for business, advisory board appointments. Anybody have any thoughts or questions on that? Pretty standard stuff this time of the year,
It is.
to be honest with you. So I'll go ahead and make a motion that we approve the advisory board appointments and resolution appointing Riley County representatives to councils and advisory boards.
Yeah, I would second that.
Been moved and seconded to approve the appointments of several representatives to the advisory boards. All those in favor?
Aye.
All three several times, please.
What was the official snow total? I heard 4.5.
Manhattan got more than we did out our way, so yeah, I'd say you guys had 4 to 5.
I was hoping for some rain before.
I was in
kind of
town yesterday.
Slick, but
Saw, yeah,
it was snowing still pretty good at 5:30 yesterday.
range.
We didn't get much. I barely got an inch. I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
That wind was wicked.
Oh, the wind last night, Greg and I were talking, man, it was something last night. I went out to do chores, my wife walked up to the mailbox, a couple hundred yards away from the house, took the dogs, Something.
Not even quick, it kind of blew back out pretty quick, I guess.
And I heard it howling when we went to bed last night. The wind out there usually calmed down at night, not last night.
Sounded like Western Kansas.
Yeah. It was something. Thank you. Next, need a motion for the tax roll corrections.
I'll make a motion to approve the tax roll corrections.
I would second that.
Moved and seconded to approve the tax roll corrections. All in favor? Aye.
Chairman, please.
Got a stack up.
Do have a stack of them today.
These are through voted, this is through their local.
There's both on there. There's both on there. If you look in the lower right hand down below, it says,
Yeah, I think there's one at
Most of them were just.
some of the church.
yeah, adjustment for appraiser, adjustment. There's a
Oh,
vote.
there was a vote.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Didn't notice there was other.
Kind of a mixture.
Yeah.
I think there's Rock Creek Church. They're really doing a bunch of stuff over there.
Yeah.
Have a big sign now, I saw.
That what's wrong? They were buying, they were sharing the other one. It was there.
Yeah, well, they've got the framework for a new one,
Oh, really?
name across the top. When somebody's, I don't know how a church can use that entire space.
Oh, the parking lot past their Sunday,
On
it's
Sundays,
full.
it is
Was it
full.
really?
Yeah,
Oh, man, I
it's
couldn't
full.
believe
Both sides?
That I didn't notice, but
Okay.
the one side,
The one
the
side.
south side, the big side was, I didn't really look at that
Yeah,
side. So I
look at
can't
it.
honestly say that side was, but I'd imagine there was, if they have access on that side, I'd imagine that it was full.
Hmm.
I was impressed.
I still have pretty good ministers, so that's probably people.
The commissioners have anything on the minutes?
I didn't know.
No, I don't.
Okay.
I would make a motion to approve the minutes dated January 31st, 2022.
I'll second that.
And moved and seconded to approve the minutes of the January 31st meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We got in between your signatures
Yes.
first.
Any, how the tentative agendas look, commissioners?
I had a question.
Yes, ma'am.
On the 7th, it
Uh-huh.
has in their Rural Economic Development Advisory Board. Is that when we approve the new members, or is that
Members.
just another discussion? That's on 9/20 on February 7th.
I'm assuming, I don't know if Clancy's on. Clancy, did you put that on there by chance?
Rich, I'm going to plead innocent on this, I think. I don't, what is the item? I mean, what are we,
Board of County Commissioners, Rural Economic Development Advisory Board.
no, I mean, we've already got the board already signed that corrected version of the resolution.
Okay, I'll double check with Cindy. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, so we haven't done that. Okay, great.
Question on the tentative agenda on the 7th to 9/20 Board of County Commissioners, Rural Economic Development Advisory Board. Is that where they're making appointments or? Okay, sounds good. Okay, we just weren't sure. Okay, thank you. Bye. Yeah, it's for the appointments. Good question.
Any more in, you know?
Yeah, we haven't got any copies of it yet. So,
Did we get any more applications in on that?
Talk to people talk about it. As long as it's good, you got to get.
When I talked to Gary Monday night, I thought he said we had 9, but there was a
Oh,
couple
really?
of them that couple of them that were in the city of Manhattan, so they probably
Yeah.
won't work. So,
And you don't have all those in
I
the
put a
packet.
bug in here.
Great, thank you. Bye.
Right.
Yeah, two more, Lauren Clements and then Alan Van Mamen or something, but anyway, they'll all be in the packet.
Okay.
They'll all
Can
be
she give us copies of the last
of the last,
two applications?
yeah, they'll all be in the packet for the
Okay.
meeting.
Oh, well, ahead of time, maybe.
Oh, okay,
Because she did that before.
Well, when she sends out the agenda, they'll all be there, so you can just print them off of there.
yeah, you'll get it 2 days before.
Yeah.
2 days.
Mhm. Yeah.
So I have at least the weekend to.
Yeah. Any items for the press conference, commissioners?
No.
Okay, next we have Russell Stuckey for the bid opening at 9 o'clock. How you doing, young man?
Hey, morning, pretty good.
Good.
He is in Salina at a conference, I believe, today, so.
Oh, good. So we have an upgrade today, huh?
I don't know about that.
Caught you guys' little fire burn video. That was,
Oh.
yeah, that was nice.
See that?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. That was just one of those.
Well, let me clarify that. Controlled burn.
That's right.
Okay.
Yep, control. Yeah, no, we're out there going, okay, one, this is beautiful weather. Two, this is a good time to show people, well, because unless you're standing there, you have no idea what we're doing. And it did put off a lot of smoke, and so it was one of those, hey, we should at least tell people, hey, this is training. It's better to burn now than on a windy day.
Yes.
You know, when other fires might be going on. Anyway, yeah.
Moisture. We need some moisture.
Oh, gosh, that's no joke.
Yeah, you're gonna have a heck of a spring.
Yeah.
Approaching some historic low humidity.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, training hard, so.
Was around.
There's an atomic
Maybe it was,
for Leonard, which is.
he was a big guy, he was sitting at my table. Very funny.
Like. Oh, that's right, sit down.
Yeah, down to
That's
me.
why.
I thought that was like- Anyway, I told him. No. He can't lift it now. Yeah, I'm like, okay, you know, I've seen the moments, I can't remember the first name.
Well, that's what I thought. Tom. But yeah, he was.
Very
But
good.
now Marvin's.
He's so good, I've been on all of them within the church. Said he had pneumonia,
Oh,
and he's been down for a couple months.
really?
I saw him sitting over there, and it looked like he
That's mine.
looked like it, tell me. I said, I'm gonna run again.
No, they'll just open them. Yeah, yep.
I'm good with that.
Unless they have any specific
Where he
questions
runs, he
on it.
burns it off.
Yeah.
Oh, he does. He's just rail.
Yeah, he's the best.
Now, when did I?
There wasn't a scrap of anything left on his plate.
You
And I just get the papers, I think there's like, you know,
Big
just
potatoes.
Oh, yeah, sure.
making mistakes.
Oh,
Oh,
no.
Well, that's what.
Yeah, okay, I know what you're talking about.
It's okay. I never.
I said, they see
It was really
the,
sad.
whatever piece took home.
Everybody sees you.
She probably got the best raffle gift of the night. $300 in pictures.
Yeah. I got the farmhouse. which
I didn't catch how much it was.
You got the.
Oh, that'll work for you, Jim.
Farmhouse, the restaurant in Manhattan.
Oh, yeah. And Riley said that's.
You've gone to the events. You've ate their catering. It's
Yeah.
Fit it right now.
That's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Seneca was, yeah, this was.
Santa showed up, so here's
The kids are right.
Yeah, I guess
Still
they're
our
not
kids.
her kids.
Yeah.
Trying.
Yeah, she got one of them.
Yeah,
Right.
and extended cab too.
Those-
Those, a lot of people.
Yeah, right now. Her two youngest are the same age. Our two
Oh, yeah.
oldest just
Oh, really?
school together.
And it just was just done by a single.
Yeah. There's a couple of.
Yeah.
A lot of people.
It's around. And she was headed
Those
back.
were on,
When she got up, she came over to talk to Ken. First she said, well, I gotta go. It's getting late. I said, I think she sat down and talked and she left after I did.
You can sell it for more than that.
But she would have to go back.
now.
Oh, goodness. Can't you wait
Prisons and
till
problem.
morning? Well, we're gonna have to get up at 5.
Yeah, everybody's got their own plans how to
Yeah.
go about that.
She has a place.
It's almost impossible if you're down at like Elkhart.
Yeah.
Work.
Because they want.
Yeah.
Because they can't. Yeah.
Oh, that road between the nets, they got I-70. I just hate to drive that at night time.
Which one's that?
Oh, the I-70 between Manhattan and Topeka.
It's 9 o'clock. Go ahead.
Start with the bid. Kind of
It is.
All right. Looks like we have a bid opening for 2 sets of rescue equipment.
I was gonna see if you can.
Oh, extrication.
Can't get over it, can
No, it's still been a long week for me. First one I have is from, let's see, Rescue Specialist LLC out of Salina. A whole bunch of paperwork in the front half of this. Let's get to the good stuff here. Looks like the base bid I'm seeing here is for $52,270. Not seeing anything else with it. I'm gonna assume that's just the base price for everything, so. Over to you with the paperwork attached. Okay.
First bid is from Rescue Specialists. The total for the 2 extrication equipments, $52,270.
Okay. Second one I have is from Weiss Fire and Safety Equipment. That's also in Salina. Total I'm seeing there is $57,963.
It's from Weiss Fire and Safety Equipment. Total price for 2, that's $57,963.
The last one I have is from Danco Emergency Equipment. Like they're out of Snyder, Nebraska. Where Snyder, Nebraska is, but those are not here to debate geography this morning.
Outside
Right?
Omaha.
Oh, it's outside Omaha.
Yeah. It's in the sign on the highway.
Have you?
Yeah.
It's a small, it's a small.
It must be a small
Yes.
place. I've been up there.
That's pretty cool looking. Like you cut some shrubs,
Yeah.
some shrubs and some other things with that.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not making that endorsement.
Well,
I'm just-
I think
just
you
a
cut
thought.
metal, I'm sure. You cut
Oh, yeah.
shrubs and trees.
Base bid I've got for that one is $57,420. That's the only three I had.
Final bid for Danco Emergency Equipment. Total price for 2 sets of equipment, $57,420.
Let's see this picture.
Curiosity.
Where's that come in
Well,
with what you thought it'd be?
Just, I mean, we wanted to get, we were able to get 2021 pricing. We did it like in the first 90 days of the year.
So,
Not where we thought. So before that price increase.
well, that's what I mean, prices,
17,000
their
Yeah.
pricing is a surprise right now. I just wondered if that was within line of what you thought it'd be.
Yeah, no, it's close.
Okay.
So that determined price will be the actual price, no add-ons if it takes longer.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of laid out exactly what, they're very apples to apples. So.
Okay.
We'll go back to we have a committee that helps us within our department.
Yeah.
Go back to them.
Okay.
Get back soon. Thank
Any
you.
questions?
All right.
All righty.
Okay,
John,
Okay,
go ahead. Thanks, John.
appreciate it. Yep.
Go ahead and make a motion then that, my brain just stopped again. I mean, literally just stopped. Go ahead and, make a
Accept
motion
the
that we,
bids.
yeah, accept the bids and send them back for, recommendation and, final call.
Yeah, I second that.
moved and seconded to refer the bids to staff for recommendations. All those in favor?
Aye.
Probably not a lot of companies that probably do this, I bet.
That's why it's surprising there's two in Salina.
Yeah.
You know, because Salina's not that big.
No.
Commissioners, 9:15, you have Michael Boulder.
How you doing, Mike? We're hanging in there.
After the early morning call out.
Did you?
Yeah.
Got lots of snow.
Didn't get the wind to stop though.
We certainly appreciate not having utilities so we can get the stuff pushed off and the parking lots clear.
Yeah.
Oh,
It makes life a lot easier, so appreciate it.
oh,
That's what years ago Pat Collins used to say. It frustrated me. He said, you know, here I am as emergency services advising people not to get on the roads. And we have our people get on the roads to make it harder for those guys out on the roads, not the parking lots, but the roads with people out there, you know.
Sent somebody, when I was driving to work yesterday over at Job Corps, and he was on a little, like a little, not a skid loader, but like a little John Deere tractor that they like put a, he was right out in the middle of Eureka Drive there, pushing stuff around. I'm like, you know, that's probably not real smart that time of the morning.
I really considered strongly as I was plowing RCP's parking lot today to really pile up snow and curb in the spot. I really thought long and hard about that.
That's funny.
That'd been appropriate.
I think so. I think Kurt would have.
He would have got a
found
key.
humor in it.
Yeah.
I thought if he didn't, then.
It only been us that would have heard about it, so.
Would have been better if his car had been under it.
Yeah. Well, I consider that too, really. Packing in a few patrol cars.
I don't know if he has a sense of humor like that.
No, he does.
He does.
He does.
He does.
He does.
He's a good guy.
Yes.
yeah, but you don't want to make somebody mad who can list your license plate number to everybody
Yeah.
watching. He's 1 mile over, 1 mile over.
Kurt has my phone number. I'm sure my phone will ring. I just said, I don't know who did that. I'll be down there right away. I'll take care of it.
They introduce, speak to this director about, we're going to speak to this former director. I think on the meeting, actually in the afternoon, we had a meeting, or at noon, we had a meeting with all the county officers. I asked them what was going on, if they were all parked, whole stack of cars over there. He called the meeting just to meet with all of them. before he left.
He's an amazing
So like,
person.
again, that's the day after he
Yeah.
retired, he's still out. on the meeting.
I don't know what to do now. So,
So I thought it was good.
People say it takes a while to get adjusted to
Barry Wilkerson, when he was giving talks, and trying to think that about his wife, says, you realize he's gonna be home all
All the time
now?"
now.
Yeah, are you ready for that?
Well, it'd be quite a switch for the family because he was just out all the time. I suppose it's been going on for 40 years. Yeah.
Quarterback to follow.
Oh.
It's got a whole stack for us today.
Yeah. No, mine's not too bad. You know, it's so sheltered in there with the hills and the trees. You know, we usually don't have to worry about too much drifting.
It's really weird yesterday morning. I'm heading to work and the other thing was pretty snow packed till I got to Eureka Drive. And it's like the snow just like missed it completely. There was nothing on other than some people that pushed snow out off a couple of the driveways. There was nothing on it.
Blew
Both
straight
lanes.
across. See, that's the
That's
thing
what I'm
about
thinking.
it. You notice how high up it's built because
Uh-huh.
of that flood there. Yeah, that always happens there. It's built up higher than the rest of it and it just blows across
Yeah.
that.
The state crews were a little late getting out. I noticed.
They weren't out at all at 5:30.
Seven Childs was still snow.
Yeah.
packed at 6 o'clock. Snow packed.
Thankfully, there was not a whole lot of traffic there on Marlette, you know, with the detour at the moment, but that was really snow packed.
Yeah, and then I was in town yesterday and driving home yesterday afternoon. There's certain areas on the highway that where that wind was really blowing across. It was blowing across there and freezing again. On there and sticking to the road again.
You know, that's the danger of putting down ice and freezing conditions. It creates almost a super freezing point.
Yeah, I think it's actually supposed to be colder tomorrow morning.
It is. So,
Morning.
yeah, it might be in the negative. But I don't know if there's wind like there was.
10 mile an hour.
Okay.
Not as bad as last night.
Yeah,
Last
so
night.
it probably
Doesn't take much wind when it gets that.
Yeah, it makes a huge
It just
difference.
blows right.
Well, it depends. It depends on how much humidity you still have. If you have very, very low or negative humidity, then it actually, it doesn't stretch out the wind chill. So. That's your meteorological education.
So cold.
Yeah. Final word, yeah. Let's stay cool.
Because this is kind of my least favorite time of year.
Technically speaking, cold.
Yeah. Yeah.
My least favorite's the opposite end of this spectrum,
Really?
100 degrees.
Yeah, I'm not a real big fan of the 110, 100% humidity days
I
either.
like this better than that for sure.
Alright, okay.
A lot
I'm the
better.
other way. I like
Yeah.
hot.
Most people are.
I just learned to stay inside for both and then it'll pass eventually.
That's what furnaces and air conditioners are made for. Those days in particular. Nope, still got a minute and a half or something. 1 minute. 1 minute.
It'll feel like 5, 10, 20.
3 units later.
Yeah.
About 10 seconds. According to that.
I was going to buy a computer clock.
Oh, okay. It doesn't give seconds.
That does.
That does.
Where?
If
If
you
you hit
click
it.
on it, you click on it, it pops up like that.
Oh, really? Something like that.
Exactly. See, it was worth getting up this morning.
I don't know.
My meteorological education there wasn't good enough, man.
I didn't get in on all of it.
Oh, okay, okay.
I did hear that Puxatawny Phil is right 40% of the time. So there was the.
So his girlfriend is right. He's a compulsive liar, the other 60. Okay, that works.
It's less than the coin flip.
Yeah. Which, has been in the news here recently during football season as well.
Yeah. All right, Mike. There you go.
Good morning, Commissioners. Michael Bowler with the Riley County Noxious Weed with a staff update. I've got a lot of information I'll be covering here in a short period of time, so we'll hit the highlights. Our winter tree trimming continues this week, but probably we're about done with the winter weather really hitting. Our project roads this year were Wildcat Creek, Deep Creek, and Boulder Road. All of those have been trimmed out. The very end of Boulder Road is in fact in Riley County, and it's been fairly neglected. So we got that cleaned up this year. Winter maintenance on tractors and mowers continues on all 4 units, and will include rental sprayers this month. So we've got those to do, but we've started on our tractors. The 2021 noxious weed report we'll cover here in a minute. It will be submitted to the Kansas Department of Agriculture. It's a yearly update that we do. I will just say that as right now, no noted major changes in infestations of noxious weeds, and we'll cover that a little bit more here in a moment. I also have for you this morning the Kansas Department of Ag Management Plan. This is a management plan of we as a county and how we're going to address noxious weeds moving forward. It's a yearly report we all submit to the Kansas Department of Agriculture. CWDAK conference for spring 2021, it should be 2022, will be in March. This conference enables all applicators to earn credits for their certifications, and this year that will be held in Topeka. Our applicators and myself will be attending that conference. CWDAK Basic Weed School will be the week after in March. That will take place here in Manhattan at the Hilton Garden Inn. And Scott Marsh with the Kansas Department of Ag and I helped conduct that school. And that's a yearly deal that new weed directors from around the state are statutorily required to attend that class and pass. And then we also have other applicators that attend that school because it's very informational. The last item I have on the noxious weed side, I do want to just touch briefly that I'm hearing in the news 7 and 8% inflation. That so far is not what I'm experiencing there at the shop. I did want to share with you that I recently bought a pallet, a Kentucky fescue. In April of 2021, I paid $25.80 for that pallet. And 9 months later, I paid double that. And at first I was a little concerned, perhaps I bought it in the winter. And I talked to the manager there and he said there are 2 things. A, if you waited for the spring, it probably would have been another $1,500. And then I would not have been willing to sell you a pallet because it's going to be so in demand. Right? Why fertilizer and chemical and seeds are seeing 100% increase?
I can explain a little bit of that. It has to do with kind of bits and pieces of our current energy policy. This was on yesterday's town hall with Senator Moran. I don't, the fertilizer part, I'm not so for sure about seed, I guess, but cost of chemicals and fertilizer, there's a lot of hidden costs at the top that are filtering back down. And of course, that always comes back down on the consumer, whether it's public or private. And it's a real big deal, obviously, for farmers and ranchers and everybody right now, particularly as we're getting into the early part of the season. It will be planting season, and all those things will be applicable, and it's bad, really bad.
That's tough on agriculture.
Yeah.
It's concerning, and I'm bringing it to the board's attention only because those type of price increases are just not sustainable in my budget. So there's some ways that I'm going to be some changes. Usually when we put grass seed down in the spring, we like to include some brome in that. And brome, I'm being told, is going to be up to $500 a bag. So we'll have to probably not put brome down, which isn't ideal. We like to have a fescue brome mix, but there's some other areas that I'm just going to have to, we'll have to just change. Frankly, I have a $5,000 line item for fertilizer and seed, and one pallet of grass seed put me over budget for that line item already. So we're just going to have to make changes as we can and do what we can with what we've got.
Do you have any other type of potentially native grass that can do something similar to that?
I'm looking at different options, looking for, brome grass. And sometimes there's private growers that sell it for a lot cheaper. And you do run into some concern about what kind of weed content may be involved. This year, Public Works has been very active in cleaning ditches. And so we've got more grass that we need to put down. Inevitably, if we go over quite a bit on that line item, I'll find someplace else to cut. But my big thing to the board is just recognizing that I'm hearing 7% inflation, and that's not really what I'm experiencing.
That right there is almost 50% inflation.
Yes.
Yeah. Actually, it's over 50%.
That's 100%. Yeah, that would denote twice. Yeah, in 9 months, that's double the cost.
Recent report I heard is that the Midwest, for some reason, this time is getting hit with the highest inflation across the nation, which is unusual. We're higher than the national average.
Well, it's just concerning that grass seed fertilizer is ag-based, obviously, and I don't know why the ag industry is being hit, but it concerns me that that's the case. But I don't know what other departments are facing, but for me, I need to make some decisions on where we're going to spend some money because things are just high. So I just want to bring that to your attention.
It's going to be an interesting budget season.
Yeah, that's not the word I'm going to use. I'll just go with that for now.
Well, we'll move on to some better news. Kansas Department of Health and Environment released their 2021 HHW legislative report. I do have a map here that's kind of interesting. I want to educate. The highlighted colored areas are regional HHWs. The one in the light green that includes Riley County is the Big Lakes region. But all the others are counties that have come together in a region much like ours. One thing that I'd like to point out that I'm very proud of is the Big Lakes region in light green processed more hazardous materials than the entire rest of the regions combined, almost double what the rest of the regions combined did. We ranked 4th in the state overall in regards to the amount of HHW we processed. There were 3 counties that are ahead of us. That would be Sedgwick County, comes in number 1, and then Johnson County actually has 2 facilities, and they come in number 2 and 3 respectively, and we are 4th, and then really falls off after that, but 5th place would be Shawnee County and their HHWs. One other thing I'd like to highlight about that too that I'm pretty proud of, in 2020 and 2021, in 2020, there was a total of 687 days that HHWs were closed across the state. And then in 2021, 416 days, but we weren't closed for 1 day, 1 hour. We were always available here and to the other counties as far as being able to drop off material and processing material. So pretty proud of that we were open that entire time. Our next collection for Howie's Recycling will be Saturday, February 12th at 8 a.m. to noon. Again, that's very popular. I've had people call in about that all the time and thank us for the job we do down there. And HHW is just a growing industry, as I think that I've relayed before. It's just very popular. We do have lots of recycled materials out at our shelves. It's been popular because of paint. Price of paint's going up and our price remains the same at free. So people are pretty happy about that.
That'll help the inflation rate.
It will. It will. And then we have our first contractor cleanout for 2022 this month. I believe it's next week. We have that scheduled. And then finally, I will be attending the CWDAK State Board meeting on March 1st as I serve on the state board. And I'm also the president in the Northeast District. So I'll be attending that meeting in Topeka, which coincides with our conference. So commissioners, any questions on the staff update?
I did on your map there. There's some of the veteran houses are filled in and some are just out.
Yeah, it represents satellite facilities and processing. It has to do with how they're licensed and what they can process. That's why some of them are filled in. I do want to point out that these three counties right here, I have been working with Jeff Walker with the KDHE, and we went to the South Central Regional leadership retreat and discussed the issue with these three counties that don't have an HHW tend to like to bring things to this county, in which case all these counties have to pay for their disposal. So I'm happy to report that those three counties were very responsive to what Jeff and I had to say, and that we're scheduling some just day cleanouts for them, KDHE is. So the commissioners in those counties were very responsible and responsive to what we had to say. And so I'm very pleased about that. So that's when counties, when you don't see the little deal at all, means they don't have any, but the ones that are filled in and the others are satellites, and that has to do with how they can process these. Any further questions about that? Next item on the report is our annual weed report. This report notes our budget summary, including both revenues and expenditures. And it also is related to our survey sections, the amount of herbicide used and the acreage treated, and the amount of noxious weeds we have. I'll kind of explain how this works very quickly. The state sends out 10 random sections in the county, and then I go and survey those sections, walk them, observe them, note and measure how many noxious weeds are there. And then there's a mathematical formula that we apply. And that gives us, in theory, what our noxious weed infestation in Riley County is. However, there is a weed director ability to add information in there, which is vitally important, because this year we didn't have any survey section in the city of Manhattan, and certainly the city of Manhattan has noxious weeds. So I'm able to use past reports, the survey, and then I base a lot of it also off of complaints that we've had going out and surveying areas in different parts. And this year, relatively speaking, compared very closely to last year, other than you will see a rise and fall in certain species of noxious weeds. And this year, one of our favorite weeds we like to talk about is Sericea lespedeza. We did see an increase in that. And a lot of it has to do with conditions that you see. If you recall, last spring, we had a pretty wet condition, which helps all plants grow. But Sericea lespedeza is allelopathic, meaning that it can kill plants that are around it. And so in great growing conditions, Sericea thrives, and then it also prevents other species from competing with its canopy and ground. And so it thrives pretty well. By virtue of comparison, bindweed has a very deep root system, and it flourishes really well in arid conditions. If we have a really dry spring, you see a lot more bindweed because it doesn't have to compete the canopy with other plants that are growing. So a lot of it has to do with growing conditions. But anyway, we don't have any big major outbreaks right now. We're pretty steady on how we do and how we treat weeds. So Kansas Department of Agriculture requires the commissioners to endorse or approve that report so that I can forward it to the state. So I'm asking for your signature on that report, recommending approval of the annual report.
Can I get a motion on that, commissioners?
Yeah. Go ahead and make a motion that we approve the 2021 annual report be sent over to KDHE.
I would second that.
Been moved and seconded to approve the 2021 noxious weed annual report. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All three sign, please.
Thank you, commissioners. And the very last item I have for you is our management report. Our management report has been reduced quite a bit this year. It is actually a form that has been submitted by the state of Kansas that really reduces the amount of information that we put on there. Normally, my manager report is 16 pages long. This year, I believe it's 4. It's very basic. But the management report essentially, and I still have our 16-page one. What it outlines is what is also in the annual report predominantly. But it's really designed to how are we going to treat noxious weeds? What are we going to do? And I have it broken down from species, what month we spray it, how much chemical we spray on it. But the state has really wanted to reduce that, I think, just for stat keeping purposes. So for that reason, the report has been reduced significantly. But it essentially talks about, among other things, what our personnel services costs, our total expenditures, fuel maintenance expense, those type of items that the state wants to keep track on for spending on what counties are spending on these. So with that, I also require or hope to have a signature from the commissioners for approval of the management plan to be submitted to the Kansas Department of Agriculture.
I'll go ahead and make a motion that we approve the 2022 management plan and report to be sent to the Kansas Department of Agriculture.
I would second that.
Moved and seconded to approve sending the annual report, management report. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it. Commissioners, it's time for Mr. McHenry. Morning, Greg.
Good morning. You ordered the cold weather.
Not me,
Man, it's like a frozen tundra.
but I'll take
It
it.
hasn't warmed up since we got here.
No, the wind's picked up a little bit.
Right.
Maybe I'm just getting older. I don't know. Florida's sounding better every day. I want to start out talking about our 2022 values. It's here already. We are actually, as of earlier this morning, we completed our 2022 values for the 26,000 approximately real estate parcels that we have in the county. And we are going to mail our valuation notices for all of those February 15th. As if you recall, our mandated deadline to mail is March 1st. But for the last, probably 10 or 12 years at least, we have tried to mail it around mid-February. And there are several reasons why we do that. Number one, it gives our staff a little more time if a year comes up where we have more appeals than usual or normal. It also gets our appraisers into the field a little earlier. And we need that time, to kind of complete those mandates that we have for the rest of the year. But probably most importantly, we feel like it helps you all and Rich and Tammy and the clerk's office be able to dive into that budget process for the next year a bit earlier. And just getting that information to Rich's office earlier, I think has helped over the years. So we'll do that again this year. Don't know what to expect in terms of numbers of appeals. I will say, just from speaking to some groups here in the community recently and talking to people anecdotally, everyone seems to know what's going on in our market. They know what that neighbor's house across the street sold for. So I don't think it'll be a big surprise to folks to see values increase. And hopefully, and I think our community is pretty sharp about this. Hopefully they'll understand the values aren't necessarily going to increase their taxes. That's the big misperception for some folks. But if it goes up 14%, it doesn't mean your tax bill is going to go up 14%. That's the message we'll continue to try to help them understand. One of the things we do when we do have informal appeals is ask them if they understand how property taxes are calculated. So we go through that formula and talk about how budget processes work and mill levies are set and all those kinds of things. And I think that helps, but we'll continue to do that and as much as we can. Our personal property staff are busy working those personal property valuation forms that we sent out the last day of December. That's about 3,600 personal property accounts. A lot of people don't know what I am saying when I say personal property, but that's business personal property, mobile homes, watercraft, heavier trucks, non-highway vehicles, ATVs, golf carts, and even the oil leases that we have in the county. All those things are valued through the personal property valuation system, and that'll keep them very, very busy up until about the third week of April. And then we will send out final valuation notices for personal property. And there's a 2-week time frame when they would be able to appeal if they wish. And a lot of times when they're appealing, they forgot to tell us they sold the golf cart or something. You know, that's kind of their opportunity to let us know that. But we're on track to meet all of our deadlines for those as well. We have one payment under protest appeal for 2021 that we're hoping to wrap up today. And that would complete all of the 2021 payment under protest, or we call them PUPs, for this year. We had fewer than we've had for a while, which was a bit of a pleasant surprise, I guess. But we're wrapping that up. We're keeping a close eye on the local real estate market. You know, a lot of people ask myself and my staff what's going on. So we're taking some extra steps to try to get numbers and information out to folks. Alan will be talking to you all, I believe it's February 14th press conference, and answering some of those questions I think that came up when he was here a week or so ago.
Yeah.
And I'll be talking then too about our valuation notices, which will be mailed the next day. So I'll provide the deadlines and the appeal process and all that information at that time as well. You know, I can say, people ask me a lot, you know, is this market going to continue? And, you know, nationally, they're saying it'll continue. Locally, I feel more confident that it'll continue for a lot of reasons, but mostly because supply is still not kept up with demand. It's really that simple. And I don't see that changing much. We're not a community where people do a 40 to 50 or 60 home development like you would see in Denver or, you know, a metropolitan area. So supply is individual builders building custom homes for the most part, and maybe a few spec homes. But we really don't build at a rate that, you know, changes that spread between supply and demand. I don't see that happening or changing this year. There's no way the Fed is going to be able to raise interest rates fast enough to make much of a difference. Gosh, if they changed it by 1%, that's still very, very inexpensive financing. And, you know, that's another reason it nationally and locally why I think the market is as active as it has been. But the big reason is that supply versus demand. And we've seen that continue for 20 plus years. I would expect it will continue in 2022. We have had, and this is just the month of, or part of the month of January, we've had 28 or 32 real estate sales, with 27 of those being home sales. The median sale price is $195,250. The average sale price rose a bit, $246,218. Our median sales ratio is still, it's a little above 90, about 90.3, but that's the lowest that we have had since statewide reappraisal in 1989, which is, you know, going to be reflected in those values that we set for 2022. We've got, I think, 18 BOTA cases on the docket. As you can see, that list hasn't changed. We still don't have schedules for any of those yet. They do have a third board member. They seem to be getting things like applications for exemption or something that's kind of routine back pretty quickly. but they are way behind in terms of the real estate appeals. And so I wouldn't expect to be even going to court on any of those till maybe late spring at the earliest, more likely early fall. But we'll keep you posted on those. And as you can see, the majority of them are in one way or another dark store type cases too. I will let you know, if you haven't heard, Johnson County's Walmart case is going to the Supreme Court. And I believe they actually have it on the docket. So we'll see how that goes.
State Supreme Court.
State Supreme Court, yeah, good point. They filed at Court of Appeals like we did for our Home Depot case for 2018 here recently. But they're a little further ahead in the process. So that will be heard sometime this year. They haven't set a date yet, but we'll keep a very close eye on that and kind of keep you posted as to how that goes and you know, what types of questions and decisions they may come up with. Any questions?
And you had said when that ratio goes below 90%, the state, I assume if every county and state is having that problem, they probably don't come in as much, or do you know how it's gone for others?
That's a great question. We're part of what we refer to as the larger county group or the smaller county in that group. There are 7 or 8 counties included. And that would be Johnson, Wyandotte, Sedgwick, Shawnee, et cetera. Douglas is also in that group. All of us are experiencing lower residential ratios. Most of us are somewhere between 90 and about 92 or 93. And most of us have never been there before since, statewide reappraisal. The state's aware of that. That's the biggest reason why we have a sales ratio every year. That's a great test of our accuracy or inaccuracy. And, I always remind my friends on the fee appraisal side, we're tested and graded on our values every year, and you're not, and we joke about it, but it's true. We're setting values blindly. We don't know what it's going to sell for, what the bank wants to loan on it, all those things that can come into play in a fee appraisal. We're just setting values based on what has happened, sales that have occurred in the past, in the recent past. And, that sales ratio helps us, helps our constituents know whether we're doing a good job or not. And, if ours would fall below 90% for 1 year, they would want to know what is our plan to remedy that? How are we going to do that? They would need to approve it. If we were under 2 years in a row, that's when they come in the office and they can take over, basically. It's their statutory responsibility. But I personally like the system, right? Both as a county appraiser and a taxpayer, because they're very strict standards. And if we're not doing our job, they'll make sure that somebody does it right. That's what that score, that sales ratio is all about. Yeah.
But I'm saying it isn't just one plate. When it's all over, they can't holler too much when every county's having the same problem.
Yeah, they
realize, I'm sure they'll give you instructions, but they are. If one county was at 90 and everybody else was at 98, then that might be a concern. Yeah, it's a little easier for them work-wise, for sure. But they are aware of what's going on in that larger county group. And we have actually, the director has talked with us all a couple of times about it. He's well aware that, our ratios were, 97, 98% a year ago, and our market has changed that much. And so they know that. At the same time, statutorily, they need to ensure that we get them up to where they need to be for the next year. So they'll do that with all of us, and they'll have, every county has a PVD, we call them PVD field person or PVD rep, and that person deals with a group of counties and reports to supervisor and the director. And so that's actually who we would have been working with so far.
So, that's kind of how they spread out the workload. And would it be able to accommodate 7 or 8 of us being out of compliance? I don't think it'll come to that. As we had our last phone call, we have monthly phone calls. Everyone was talking about the increases in value that they were, in Douglas County, their average is more like 20%. Johnson County would be more like 16, 18, 20%. So it is what it is. We're just following the market up or down, but it's why we're raising values to the extent that we are this year.
You know what, on the smaller counties then, or is it every place doing a problem there too?
Not as much, not nearly as much. I grew up in Cloud County. They're looking at increases that would be more in the 3 or 4% range probably, with a few exceptions. There are some small counties that, was it Russell County, I think, that has the ethanol plant there. If they have a good job base or, major employer, they're seeing a little bit of the housing boom too, not to the extent we are, but they might see 6% or 8% or something like that. Yeah. So it really, it still goes back to supply and demand and that job base, in our counties all across the state. And that's why in Raleigh County's case, we've always had more demand than supply. And we have, a good job base and a growing job base. I think NBAF has about 350 employees now, something like that. And they'll have another, I think it was 150 or something they're going to hire. We don't know for sure when we're verifying these sales, but I'm sure some of them are the result of a new employer, with a bigger job base coming to the community. But there are a lot of others too. The big thing that we see that's probably been different the last 3 or 4 years, more and more and more, is people that went to school here years ago, and maybe they're selling their farm in Southwest Kansas and retiring here in Manhattan, or people that are in their 40s, mid 40s to 50ish, who went to school here, who realize now they can work remotely, and they would love to live in Manhattan as opposed to a bigger city. And that's becoming a bigger and bigger, I guess, proportion of our sales here. Yep. Thank you for your support as we get all these notices, and I know you'll get questions too, and don't hesitate to ask myself or Alan if you have any questions that need to be answered or anything that comes up. I'm trying to get on K-Man's In Focus schedule here sometime in the next couple of weeks and talk about this as well.
I'm on next Tuesday if you're interested. You can take part of that time.
Yeah.
I'll see. I think I have a meeting. I'll see what my schedule looks like.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, give me a call.
You appraise the value of all the real estate?
Yes.
Other things,
Yeah.
cars,
Well, we're talking about the real estate parcels now, but that would include all the taxable real estate parcels and all the exempt. And we actually value the buildings that are on K-State's campus. That's a responsibility too, but yeah, all the real estate parcels. Sure.
Well, like, say the increase, what it says is people want to be here. That's better. If nobody wanted to be here, then the prices would drop because nobody wanted to move here. I mean, it's because of problems, but it's also a good sign that people are wanting to live here.
In Kansas or in the Midwest, you're either going to grow or you're going to slowly die.
Mhm.
And Manhattan is growing and has been for a long time. So that's a good thing. And I agree. The problems are you all and the school district and the city having to budget for what all the wants are, determining what's a need and what a want is. And I don't envy your job at all. I think you all do a good job, but I wouldn't want to be in your shoes.
I don't want your job either.
Yeah. It's funny. in my role as the IAAO president for last year, I met people from all over the country and some out of the US, and I made a point of trying to get them to share their story. How'd you get into this business? That type of thing. I've never met anybody who grew up just wanting to be a county appraiser. So we all kind of slip into it or fall into it, but it's something that we're passionate about and love and we want to be our best at it. That's our office goal too.
Thank you.
The house was free, my exercise years, like music, going on. How do you look pretty much?
That's a good question. We've had several over the last, let's say 4 or 5 years, several what I would call meth houses. When our appraiser goes to the field, they realize there's something going on there or has been going on there. We always let the city know and let our CPD know. We're just so they can do their due diligence. From our perspective, it can affect the value. In most cases, it affects the value. The house is usually in disrepair. Some of them later on RCPD or the city will actually condemn it or, for safety reasons. So we let them do that part. We just do the valuation part, but we run across those fairly regularly. And yeah, I would say in the last 5 years, we've had 6 or 7 at least, that have had to some degree have been in that category. And many times it does affect the value because they just haven't kept the home up. There's some sort of disrepair going on. Yeah. Thanks for the question.
Thank you, Greg.
That's it for me. Thank you.
Greg, you got a couple minutes here.
I was just comparing my watch to the official clock up there.
I will be available again.
I'll get with you later.
Okay.
I just want to chat.
Sure. No, I was trying to think. Yeah, it'll be pretty full till about 12:45.
Okay, that's when I'm gonna be busy. I just had a little gap in the wind. I'm just trying to get some agenda for about just
Yeah.
Okay.
No,
Happy to get the later. We got the Saturday at 9, so Sunday was the gym. It's we got 4 o'clock Tuesday. It would be 70 Tuesday, so that was well, I think it's weird. I'd be usually on one of those.
Oh, yeah.
And I do that. I just feel.
Let me see if I can get out. Zoom meeting we're doing Yeah.
Experience.
That'd be a good one.
Counterintuitive guy, you know.
I'll go back and look at my outlook.
We can't.
Send you an email, let you know for sure when we're there. Yeah, that's usually 9 to 10.
Choice between Spanish and calamari, livestock. And I didn't know if that was, but they got calamari. After I tried it back in my time, it was more.
He's a good friend, actually.
I mean, for me, it was, so I don't need one.
Is it Prager?
Is that?
Yeah.
That's great. I mean, if I was started. Yeah. It's a way. Or
91, yeah. Every year he runs on his first that many laps. It's incredible.
Going down with it, you have a back.
Yeah.
Holding up.
He's got a little farm on the south side of Henderson Avenue. Yeah.
I don't like that either in normal times. you
Yeah.
know. It's kind of nice if you could have,
Yeah,
like one time. Since we're
so
so
we
big
did friends years ago.
Flying down to the plane for the empties and Trace Mike and said.
The second guy that was there, so
Kind of nice.
just something we like to do. And that's our market for that. But for the last, gosh, it's probably been 5 or 6 years at least. I've come from on this property right next to the cord there. The birds are fat, you know.
They even.
Yeah.
A bunch of offices.
Yeah, especially on the south side.
Wait,
Yeah.
out of the way.
I've seen flocks of 20, you know. It's,
I didn't realize.
love going out there. He's so.
Clearwater, I get to land in Tampa,
Yeah.
you know, so I spent the extended weekend in Tom Brady country.
Oh.
That's all the talk was, it was the songs.
I know when people will make confused and I say,
They weren't even talking about.
McKinley's the one there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, okay,
I hadn't thought about that.
No.
thank you.
I guess you understood. That's what that sounded like. All right, Craig. Good morning, Commissioners. I'm just being a little cautious for everybody around me. My family and I flew down to Clearwater, Florida for a long weekend last weekend. And since I spent about 6-7 hours on an airplane, I just thought I'd wear a mask for a while and make sure I wasn't exposing anybody of anything. What you have in front of you is just the appointment of Tom Paul as the sanitary code hearing officer. I think as I explained last week when I was filling in for Clancy, if staff makes a sanitary code decision and the property owner doesn't agree with that, they can appeal that decision. The appeal first goes to a hearing officer who has a hearing, conducts a hearing, actual hearing, writes a report, and then that will be submitted to the commission. And then the commission then can either accept that the officer's report or vary from it. So we need that position filled. And we actually have a case that we think maybe we might have an appeal in, not sure yet. And we checked all around and had a lot of people say no to our request, and Tom was gracious to accept it. We think he's very knowledgeable and will do a good job.
So we haven't had one for a while, so.
I mean, I came in 06 and we probably used one in about 08 and we haven't had one since. So it's very intermittent. And by the sanitary code, if the hearing officer works, then he's paid out of the general fund. Yeah.
Do they get paid by per section or?
I think probably we haven't really figured the payout with Mr. Tall yet. I mean, my concept, we could do per case or really probably an hourly rate. You know, I mean, some cases are going to be short, some may be a little bit longer, but it's probably going to be an hourly rate,
Okay.
just for the amount of time he puts in for that case.
Yeah, I'm just kind of curious on what, you know, what the cost might be.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't had that discussion yet as to an hourly rate or a case rate.
Just Craig, in a minute, it's just something when there's gonna be a fiscal impact, it's important that the taxpayers and the commissioners
Yeah.
are aware of that
Right.
prior to it should be in the car, really. I mean, because they really don't like to just sign off on things that, I know it's a small amount based on history, but blank checks potentially.
I would rather have that fiscal impact myself.
Before you sign off on it?
I would.
Okay, we'll come back and give that to you then. That's fine. That's fine. We'll get that back to you next week.
Probably need to make a motion to table then.
Sure.
Okay, I'll go ahead and make a motion that we table the action item on the appointment of a sanitary code hearing for fiscal follow-up.
I would second that.
Been moved and seconded to table the appointment of sanitary code officer for more fiscal information. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Commissioners, you have Amanda Webb at 10 o'clock. Cute, pretty, pretty growing.
Oh, yeah, he says he was baby.
A little bit really cute, man. That's a close up.
Yeah, he's got freckles.
It does.
They got brown freckles on one side, black ones on the other.
Pretty dog.
Now his legs are really long.
Oh, yeah. Big old paws.
Yeah,
Big old paws.
he's not gonna get real big, I hope.
Oh, no, they don't get huge.
He's supposed to get about this big, maybe 20 pounds. He's got more than half.
Not bad. Yeah, I'm just gonna have to update her name.
I know, I miss updating my own name. Yeah. Amanda Webb, Planning Director, good morning. So I want to hit a couple quick highlights, but I actually would like to spend a little time talking about the base grant. I did the webinar yesterday through the Kansas Department of Commerce. I want to talk a little bit about that while we're together. So again, just to hit a couple quick highlights on my staff report. We always like to talk about that. We got our land development regulations approved and they are effective January 1. And we have been working under those and we are really excited for our new document. However, as I'm sure you all know, zoning documents are always fluid. They're never done. So there are a few minor amendments we're going to be opening it back up to do. And so we're going to have that before our planning board for discussion this month to see what they actually want to proceed with. And of course, go through the public hearing process and of course, back to you folks. So it will not take 5 or 6 years. It will only take hopefully a few months. So just kind of letting you know that's coming. Just a couple of things for some clarification, some things we missed and whatnot. So, so we'll get that taken care of. The other one I want to mention, NG 911, as you know, we finished Heilville Place in January. We got that one taken care of and the committee met to select our next road. And we're going to do this one here, a little private road off of East Marlette there. There are 2 properties there. This one was last put on or was already on the priority list and was looked at early on in the project, and Dodge Lane was previously suggested in 2017. The committee has talked about that and that's what we'll go forward with proposing. So we'll get those pre-notification letters sent out here shortly to get that process started. So you'll be seeing this one over the next few months. Let's see. Just wanted to include, of course, I wasn't able to be before you last month. So of course I have information from both December and January in my report here. Wanted to include all of our permits issued by month for 2021, so you can kind of see that comparison. They're kind of all over the place, as you can tell. You know, it just kind of depends on the month, what we get and what we're able to get through. And I also have the total permits issued there and our January 2022 permits. Of course, I don't have the table yet, since something to compare it to. But just to say again, last year and this year, we are not seeing our normal winter slowdown. I know that's happening for a lot of people. Usually things in the planning department kind of slow up a little bit in winter, and that just has not happened these last couple of years. So we're still getting through things, still busy and still getting things done. So those are kind of the updates or the highlights for last couple of months of what's coming up. Do you have any questions before we talk about the base grant? Okay. So I was able to attend. Take one of these and pass it down, please. I was able to attend the webinar yesterday. The Department of Commerce put out. They don't have their webinar slides on their website yet, which is why I might have accidentally handed you a little bit too much there. So if you have more than this sheet, Rich, if I can get that back, I'm sorry. Those are my notes. So just handed everything to you. Thank you so much. Okay. All righty, so, perfect, thank you, appreciate that. Okay, so the base grant, Building a Stronger Economy base grant through Kansas Department of Commerce. Obviously, this is all about economic development in the state. And so as I was watching the webinar, and thinking about it, of course, Keats is always on our minds. I did reach out to, I asked the question during the webinar and they were able to partially answer it. And I did reach out to Commerce to see if it was an eligible project. It's really not, unfortunately, unless we can somehow tie it to an economic development project. Or if it's something that will be eventually for, I know, and I'm thinking about this too, eventually for a bit.
I was on the call yesterday,
Okay,
so
okay,
I
perfect.
heard all that. When
Good.
you were talking about residential, how would that not be considered residential at that point? You're
Right.
keeping people in their homes.
Right, and that's what I was kind of grabbing
Right.
onto. They talked about, getting those residents. So I asked about that and yeah, unfortunately, I got the response this morning. It has to be tied to an existing or future economic development project, or the facility is associated with an existing or proposed business or industrial park. So unless we want to throw an industrial or business park out at Keats, I don't think,
You said the
unfortunately.
size of it.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, technically, you could put a sub-building in over at the park over there. Wouldn't that be considered?
Yeah, I mean, it's all about those, retaining or helping to retain existing businesses, spur new businesses and infrastructure for that. So the only other kind of, wrench in this a little bit is the applications are due at the end of this month.
Yeah.
And they're pretty extensive. So unless we already had, again, Keats would have been perfect because again, we already have a lot of the legwork that we've done. We have a lot of the budget timeline, things like that. But again, unfortunately, it really doesn't look like we're going to be able to fit Keats into this box. I still wanted to talk about this because obviously it's an important opportunity. We as a county might not necessarily be able to take advantage of it, but individual property owners, commercial, development owners can take advantage of it. So I definitely wanted to, talk about it in our open meeting and have this information out. The other thing, projects need to be complete. Construction needs to be complete within 2 years. So I'm not sure we would have been able to fit Keats in all that anyway. But again, I don't know if there was something else that's, kind of out there. Yeah.
Explain how individual residents can take advantage of the use of this program. How do they qualify?
Yeah, so it's the same thing. So it's the same process that the county or any other eligible entity would have to do. There's an application process and a bunch of documentation they'll have to do. So individual property owners can do that on their own behalf. It's the same process.
Based on improving their own individual wastewater system?
Mhm. Right.
So,
Well, their own, again, it still has to be tied to that economic development project. And it has to be, let's see if I have that.
I took a different context out of that, but you clarified with the Department of Commerce.
Yeah,
I still think that there's going to be some renovations here to this, because that parts of what I heard yesterday and parts of what you're explaining to me don't make sense. Just doesn't
Right.
make
so
sense.
yeah, that doesn't make sense that an individual resident can only take advantage based on a
Right.
new economic development, individual resident.
Like, how do you establish what the boundaries of that are? That was the one,
yeah. So it says eligible applicants, private land developers and commercial property owners. So of course, those can be individuals, of course.
sure.
And yeah, it just talks about, of course, the economic development project or relation to that. And the other thing that I didn't mention yet was the COVID
Yeah, it has to be
related
COVID
impacts
related.
too. So
Yeah.
basically, although I think at this point, so many things can show that they've been impacted, by COVID. Whether it's, increased costs or supply chain, delays, things like that. So there's definitely a little bit of confusion on that because what they were saying during the webinar made it seem like residential would be, something to look at.
Anyway, I never really got what the dollar amounts are and what, how they're going to be kind of broken up along these eligible uses. That was the other part I didn't.
Yes, so of course, there's no minimum. Your project can be up to 25 million.
Right.
And each entity can request up to 3 projects, up to 25 million each. And they did say that they would kind of try to spread the money around to big projects and little projects, but it doesn't seem like, I didn't get either that, this one would be 10%, this one would be,
Well,
it kind of was a little all over the
When you
place.
deal with grants, you know this better than I do. It takes some legwork. It takes some staff time to put all those together. And, if you're gonna go for a project that's $50,000 or something, or somewhere in that range, is it worth it if you're not going to get it anyway?
Right,
So.
yeah.
They've got some work to do here to clarify some things. That was my sentiment.
And again, this one requires a lot of documentation, which in and of itself is fine.
Right.
But February 28th is your deadline. That's like 4 weeks away, which is pretty tight.
It gives you 25 days,
Yeah.
including
but
weekends.
That's,
Of course, they do this in February where you got 2 extra short days. So, you already got a shortened month as it is already. So, they can make it a full month and stretch it in the first couple of days of March.
Weekends are really overrated.
Yeah.
Right. They're for grant writing. Yeah.
It's cold, you can't.
Yeah, you can't go out anyway, So, yeah, so I don't disagree that there was a little bit of, confusion on there, and I'm happy. They did actually get my question answered pretty quick. I had sent it during the meeting yesterday and I got my answer this morning. So if there's other questions, that I can try to clarify with them, please let me know.
I do think if there's a way to take advantage of this for a couple of these cumbersome things that I was thinking Keats too.
Yeah.
It's asinine, just
Turn the old high
asinine.
school into a business park.
We got Keats and University Park, are gonna be big ones.
We've got a couple other small.
And the people at University Park just had a large special assessment increase already.
Yeah, okay. Some things are what they are, I guess.
Yeah. So definitely if you can, think of any projects or any questions, there's at the very top, excuse me, at the very top of the sheet I gave you, there's the website for the grant. And then there's, contact email on there. I'm happy to do it. If anybody thinks of anything, I'm happy to do it on your behalf. But obviously anybody, if you talk to anybody, they're more than able to access all of this information on Commerce's website and the contact us information.
We've got Widow Bryant still on the payroll technically, right?
Mhm.
Is this something we should run by them and see if they have any?
I don't think that's a bad idea at all.
Yeah, I think that'd be a good idea to run that by them. See,
Filter through it.
yeah, see if there's something that does make
If they
sense since we're on such a
Find a
short.
loophole.
Yeah,
Yeah.
since there's such a short deadline.
Yeah.
You want to give it Tammy on that?
Sure. Yep. I can definitely do that. Yeah. Cause then it made mention, you probably saw that too, about ARPA, eligible projects, which of course Keats is an ARPA eligible
Right.
project.
And that's
so-
kind of where we're gonna have to probably go with that at this point in time, 'cause I don't see any other option, but something could work here. That would be great, because that would free up quite a bit of money for something else later.
Okay. Yep.
That's gonna be probably, by the time we get to it, a 7-digit expense, easy.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Which one?
Keats. We already
Oh, yeah.
talked about 800,000, and I see that probably adding on about 20 to 25% when we get to it.
Excuse me.
Prices and everything.
Yes. Yeah. Because
Oh,
costs have gone up dramatically,
Yeah.
unfortunately. So I will ask Tammy about that, kind of get some clarification and let you all know, what we find out from Widow Bryan. And again, please let me know if you have any questions, any ideas that we can maybe run past Commerce to see if we can make something for Keats, or if there's another project, that's maybe going on that we can, fit in, or if
Keats
you
and
know, again.
University Park were the two
private
that I was
property
thinking
owner.
about, Keats in particular. As they put the residential side in there, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to save a residential unincorporated area.
Yeah.
I'd ask Widow Bryant at the same time about any other funding possible for Keats or University Park as well, or asking questions.
Yeah.
We didn't actually contract with him specifically for that, but he's so aware of all the
Yeah.
other federal grants.
Okay.
And figure out something for those communities, but Keats in particular.
Yes. Okay. Yep, I will follow.
I know that there's been some challenges, particularly with the rural water district, number one, about upfront costs for that area,
Mhm.
transferring over into there too.
Yeah.
There's a handful of people that are on fixed incomes or low incomes, and they can't afford that bite all at once.
Right.
So that might be
Right.
another one to consider too.
Yeah, and rural water districts are eligible
Yeah.
for the base grant.
Saw that and heard that yesterday too.
Yeah.
So, but
Yeah.
it sounds like to me it's going to be the same thing as, yeah, okay.
Any other questions, comments on that I can follow up on?
No.
Okay. I will let you know what I find out from Lynn O'Brien. We'll go from there.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Amanda.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Next commissioner, you have Mr. Holman.
Morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
I don't have an agenda in front of me and my memory's fading, so I can't remember. Do I start it? I assume can get started right now.
Yeah, your administrative work session's at 10:15, Clancy.
That's what I'd hoped, but I just wanted to double check. Well, appreciate your indulgence in allowing me to appear by Zoom today rather than in person. As I indicated at the very beginning of the meeting, the primary item I had scheduled to use up the administrative time today was that executive session that we can easily do next Thursday. But I do want to be available if you have questions on anything pending. I'd be glad to try and answer it. We have a number of things, as you saw from the last project list, that are underway, and those continue to advise department heads upon their request on various projects, and of course, provide advice to the board when necessary. So any questions on anything pending at this point?
I hadn't had a chance to look over the legislative lobbyists' current report. Any movement or tracking on HCR 5022?
Okay, 50. I never remember the numbers, so you're going to have to tell me the substance of that one. You got it in front of you.
The sheriff's bill.
That one, I don't, at this point, I've not heard anything else about anything new about where that is in the process. We, of course, weighed in with what on behalf of the board to make sure the legislators know that this does have a direct impact on Riley County. So just haven't heard anything back yet. I can certainly double check and see if there's been any additional movement and then get back to you. Our lobbyists will know.
What was the number of that bill?
House concurring resolution 5022.
No executive session.
No executive session.
Okay.
Thank you.
No problem. That's all I've got, Clancy, at the moment.
Okay. Anything else from the other commissioners?
I don't have anything.
All right.
No, me either.
Well, thank you very much.
All right.
That's all I have.
Yep. Commissioners have a break until 10:35. recommendation. I agree finally.
Oh, is that an answer? I'm not worried about it.
His office.
He left quite a while ago.
Well, that's what I thought. I heard him present, and I assumed he left right after that, but he probably just. All right, thank you.
There it is.
5, okay. I was in this
Got a few
10:30.
minutes.
And then you might think about it, you know. We can't even just talk about how people taxes are figured out, something that I can talk to. Maybe we could do some sort of, probably too expensive to do 26,000 flyers to put in the tax bill, but maybe, you know, flyer that we can hand out, or on the website, or something that kind of get him to feel, well, this is how we calculate. We figure it out, something like that.
You know, putting another piece of paper in with somebody going. There's a lot of copies that we're already sending.
Yeah. Yeah, you might talk to him about it, because I didn't mention to him, I was thinking, after he left, there's a lot of people ask questions like, well, how come my taxes are too high? And how do you figure this? And they look at the tax bill. And you know, like this goes to school districts, it's here, it's kind of an explanation on something, and this is how we do it, or something. Yeah.
I've been around it.
Yeah. Yeah, and what he was saying, one of the questions coming to their office and to us, so maybe something, you know, they had something really.
I'll talk to them about how they do it, and if it might be possible to.
Yeah, to throw a little sheet as an explanation of some, I don't know if it has some color, how are we taxed? Taxes.
And that would reach all the people who were
Yeah, it
getting
would.
the bill at the time to have questions, so that's a good idea.
I was thinking of what you know, still, it is confusing.
Be wherever you would like. You have time, stand right.
Yeah, go out there in front of the camera. Do a dance or something.
Recite some Shakespeare.
Yeah.
I'm sure lots of people are.
I mean, it's a nice place. Next one, so.
Oh, yeah, looking for that area.
Well, good morning, everyone. I won't take up too much of your time. I know I'm the last.
No, haven't quite hit 10:35.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Oh.
Thank you.
15 seconds.
Yeah,
But it is. I mean,
I know,
I'm
it's-
getting the seconds on there.
yeah,
He's got that down on heart, doesn't he?
I guess.
Yeah. Figured out how to watch this. All right, now you're.
Okay, thank you. I wanted to check in with you and make sure that I understand how to explain to people who want to attend this special commission meeting in the north part of the county on Friday, February 10th, how the meeting.
Thursday.
Oh, Thursday, February 10th.
Yeah, Friday before.
That-
Sorry.
I often get that wrong. I have to check myself and make sure I've got the date and the day correct, which I often don't, so thank you. But wanted to check in with you to see how to tell people the meeting procedures, what will be expected of folks who have to come and make comment on the subject, and just kind of go over how the meeting will be run. So as we publicize it, we can set expectations for conduct and participation. So I've shared some background information about current rules for public comment at commission meetings. Wanted to know if that will be what you expect of people at the special meeting, and if there are any additional guidelines you'd like to put in place for how long the meeting will go, what the order of comments will be, if there will be a sign-in sheet, or if people just kind of form a line at the podium, or how that's going to look. So wanted to open that up for some discussion.
Yeah, I don't know what. Because I've been getting questions, where do we sign, somebody had put out something that you had to sign up through the county ahead of time to attend the meeting, and I said, no, I don't know where that started, but I heard it from two different people the other day, so I posted something out there saying, no, it's, there's nothing, I don't know where, you never know where that stuff starts.
So it might be something good to put out there. There's, no requirement to sign up, just it's an open public meeting. If you'd like to attend, just attend, since we know that that's out there, to get ahead of
And I
that.
don't know, would we want to have anybody that wants to speak sign up, or just have them come up and say,
Just when that's part of what Vivian's asking, something we need, the chair needs to educate them on, when you come up to the podium or wherever they're gonna speak from, state your name.
and that's what I thought, there'd probably be, at the start of it, I'd give out the list of rules, and come out, state your name.
John's been through some, but Clancy also speak up, and generally in the past, and Vivian, and we're just asking for direction on how you want this meeting ran. It's up to the board. If, there's been the sentiment expressed, okay, if you don't want people to just come up and just repeat what the other person's already said, we don't need to hear that 100 times. And so, but if you want to hear it 100 times, that's up to you as well.
I've got a pretty good indication of what, is going to be discussed at the meeting. So, be precise, I guess would be my point. We put the pandemic procedures in place, and was it April, May of 2020, somewhere in that time frame, to keep things focused and moving forward and professional, civil, whatever you want to call it on that. Would say that each surprise.
This is what we're talking about.
Right,
this time.
but this is one specific item, so it's not like we're going through a long open meeting with other business items, so it's generally around one item. So I would say the repetitiveness of individual comments going to happen probably a little bit anyway, because you're just dealing with one item, but we don't have to repeat certain things on that. Just, state your mind, move on, let somebody else get the same opportunity, and keep it consistent.
I just, in reading this on number 3, personal attacks on private citizens, I'd say private citizens or staff or commissioners. I mean, it needs to be clear. Commissioners, staff, or private citizens, it needs to be clear. And what, just like today, you know, we kind of had an instance where maybe it might be at some point in time to say something when someone's being disrupted during the meeting, or someone mumbling in there. The chair has that authority, and, you know, not everyone, it isn't a public right to speak at a public meeting until the chair calls on someone to speak. And so you just gotta run the meeting in that manner. If not, meetings can get out of hand.
And I've seen several times in certain places where that's actually happened, so.
Well, that's right. I mean, if it starts to get too much scattered, you know, everybody, you know, one at a time.
Yeah.
One other thing.
A sign up might be good too, or do you have another other agenda items, or who's all gonna have got it?
We've got one agenda item.
One agenda.
Yeah,
item.
just to listen.
Yeah.
For record keeping, I know the city, if someone has public comment, when they step up to the podium, there's a sheet to write their name and address just for record of who spoke. And I talked to IT, there's no capability to broadcast
Yeah.
the
No,
meeting.
they don't have
And that's.
It'll just be ran, just like all our other meetings. We'll have a sign up sheet for people to sign in when they come in, but we get their name when they state their name when they
Right.
stand up to talk.
Okay.
Yeah, we're not
Awesome.
gonna change procedures for this
Okay.
meeting necessarily different than what we have here. I would recommend anyway.
The only other thing I'd like to add to that, we've asked one member of our staff to be present. There may be several other ones. They're there to answer and facilitate questions on our behalf,
And that's a
not
good
citizens' behalf.
point. What staff do commissioners want in attendance for sure? I mean,
Well, I assume David Adams.
never assume, so we want to be sure that we have clear direction
Well,
to
that's what I
people.
thought, Adams, although, somebody else said they might. I think Russ, he said he might be
Yeah.
attending.
Mhm.
Whomever, in terms of staff, that isn't interaction between the public and them. I mean, they're here during the business day. That's required, and private citizens should interact with them at that particular point in time. They're there, if we have a specific question or need a specific piece of information and as part of the discussion. And that's the reason why they would be there.
And I wasn't at the other meeting, did they discuss what the alternatives were to a full-blown ambulance, or does that
Yeah.
need to be talked about again for people that haven't been around?
I don't know, I met at the meeting up there, I did mention that,
Okay.
but that was
Okay.
something else that come up.
Well, and I think for the public standpoint, because this is a public meeting, I mean, if the commissioners want everyone there to be aware of other things you are considering and have discussed, it'd be good for someone to state that, for the commissioners to state that, you know?
Okay.
Because I know your stance is you want a full-blown ambulance. I don't think there's a consensus among the board that, and there has been a presentation about, you know, a 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. So the residents need to know that's something that the board has talked about as well.
That probably should be at the very front end of the meeting, and then
Right.
however you want to open up
You-
public comment at that point in time.
You want me to write up what I think needs to be said, and I
You can.
show it at Monday's meeting.
Uh-huh.
I can share it with them during the meeting, share it with them, that
And if you want,
this is kind of what I had in mind to the how the opening meeting, you know, what opening comments to, let's say, what we're here to discuss and not discuss this, not, I don't want to get off on appraisals and taxes and all that.
and if you're open to it, you know, I might suggest you work with Vivian to help you massage your opening presentation. I mean, she's, at least I would, she's much better at the verbiage than I am.
Yeah, okay. Yes.
Like maybe the history of, you know, like I've gotten just today 3 emails on testimonials, so I don't know if we're gonna allow
Testimonials.
well, like this happened to my family.
Yeah.
You know, with the delay in ambulance, or I had a heart attack and it took the X amount of time, and or I drove my family. There's a lot of that
Yeah.
kind of thing. So I don't know if
Well, I think that's part of what
biggest
they're
thing.
one. What they want to say is why they think there's needed.
And while I know and it's something the board needs to determine, 3 minutes seems restrictive. You can say a lot in 3 minutes.
That's what,
I can't.
I can't when I need to condense it down and just get directly to the point.
and that's what at first I thought 3 minutes doesn't sound much, but you
can do a lot.
and I didn't know if, 3 to 5 minutes or.
Well, the question would be, how many people do you anticipate?
Yeah.
And there's gonna be a lot of people, I don't know how many will want to speak.
Right.
And the biggest thing, especially when you have a meeting like this, is because someone will say something that may trigger a response from someone else, they need to say.
Like I said, that's
Your
what I was
response
trying to
is
say.
after the chair calls on you and you come up and
Yeah.
speak on it. It's not just an outburst.
Yeah, that really cuts down on a lot of stuff.
I think you'll also want to be clear, not just on the time. My recommendation, commissioners, would be not to give a range of time that people can use, but 3 minutes is pretty standard when you
Yeah.
have a large group of people speaking. And, somebody goes 3:05, nobody's going to tell. If somebody's wrapping up, it's up to the chair really to enforce that. And I think this was touched on a little bit earlier in the conversation. You want to make it clear where this is not, it's really for, as I understand it, it's to get input from the folks who are in attendance at the meeting. It's not for them to get an opportunity. It kind of goes back to something that was said earlier about staff is available during business hours if people want to come in and talk to them or to ask specific questions. So you want to kind of watch for it not to turn into a free form thing where individual staff people are simply called up to answer questions from the crowd. The
Right.
questions ought to come from the board to any staff, really. Would be my suggestion anyway.
That's simply because we're making whatever policy decision will be needed at some point in time, and we're really that voice of representation. Staff is the one that does those things behind the scenes.
And that's what's key, and something that maybe needs to be put out there too for Vivian and for the board is, staff is there for factual information to the board to make the policy decision. That's the sole intended purpose of staff. It's not for staff's personal opinion. It's for factual information.
And I would guess a lot of people, some people know how we're considering things and some people don't. So it might be good to find out, have staff say, okay, like I could say, well, what have you come up with on this topic, and maybe use that kind of interaction with the staff, and then that way the public can see how we determine things.
No, I thought if I just talk about what, this options.
And I don't know if the board wants staff to provide any information. That's up to you.
Statistics or.
Yeah, I mean, you guys, and all of your discussion has been about statistics. It's gonna come up at some point in time.
So would you perhaps like a presentation from staff as part of the meeting agenda as well, or simply have that information on hand?
And Russell and I were looking at the other day, what percentage of the population is in North County, north of 52, which percentage is south, and, looking at that kind of percentage. So he has some numbers on that.
Commissioners?
It should be one member of staff and not 3, 4, 20.
Well, and that's my concern with getting Russell
Right.
involved. It's not Russell's department.
Right.
And I've
Right.
caught wind of some things Russell's been working on, and it's really not his thing to be working on.
That probably came from his and my conversation.
It's really something David should be working on, and I'm sure David wasn't even aware of it.
David is on the meeting and I
joined
think
us
has a
now.
comment.
Oh, there he is.
Yeah, Commissioners, Josh and I will be in attendance. We're planning on being there. And, if you have any questions, or if there's anything you would like ahead of time, feel free to email me and we'll do our best to get that to you. And we'll put together just a small 2-page packet of just average response times, number of calls to North County and that kind of stuff. But if you have any specific questions, let me know and I'll present them. I'll get them to you. Ahead of time if at all possible.
Another question I had was an end time for the meeting. are you going to go until everyone has a chance to speak, or is there a hard end?
I think we said an hour and a half, wasn't it?
Well, it's like 7.
Okay.
I mean, yeah. Not 7.
8:30.
8:30.
And this is just a quick procedural thing for the 3-minute time limit. Will there be a timer, or how will people know when they've hit their 3 minutes?
The official timer, and actually at one time, Mr. Holman actually had a cooking timer that the commissioner gave him to monitor the time. So the official timer has always been Mr. Holman.
When we say always, let's remember how many times this has happened. Not that many. And I want credit. I brought my own timer. It was an oven timer, but
You have a little sign that says 30 seconds or.
Who doesn't have a smartphone that you can download a timer or stop?
Stop. I mean, I've got one of mine.
I am perfectly willing to be the person
Well,
with how much time is left.
There,
Usually what happens in the court settings is what'll very often happen is you'll notify the speaker ahead of time. For example, the timekeeper often does. I'll let you know when you have 30 seconds left.
Yeah.
Okay.
Seriously, because that's a good way to get people to kind of, okay, I'm wrapping it up now. And
Do that in like political forums all the time.
I'm sorry.
You do that in political forums all the time.
Yeah.
Or big meetings. 30 seconds.
I will avoid bringing the only problem with the oven timer, when I used it, it had a very loud ding.
Yeah, there's a reason for that.
I know, but
Really loud ding is your fire alarm, and you usually don't want to get to that point.
yeah, I'm not gonna provide anything like that, but I'll come prepared with something that.
Do they have fire alarms there just in case? I'm sure we do.
But is the board okay with that in terms of my just notifying the speakers as they get started that they have, I'll tell them when there's 30 seconds.
That's fine.
Okay. And then I also, if they, quite frankly, if someone is not wrapping up, I will, using my discretion and being polite as possible, say, okay, well, that is your 3 minutes. And that's not, if you decide you want to let someone go a little bit beyond for some reason, that's the chair's decision.
Right.
Okay. So.
Okay, so in the meeting announcements, I'll publish the established rules for agenda and public comment with the addition of verbal, visual, personal attacks on private citizens, staff, or elected officials shall not be allowed. Okay.
And Vivian, will that include the information on photographs and all that stuff? Because sometimes that can be a little bit disruptive in a larger meeting. There was actually,
Fancy on this because I would assume media is going to be there.
right.
So
I think those rules about recording and all that probably need to be part of it, because all it dealt with was positioning. It didn't say anybody couldn't use it. You just couldn't disrupt the meeting unintentionally or otherwise by using the old style movie camera that my mother used at my law school graduation, which was much like having a spotlight. Got some real attention during that. It's just to make sure that the meeting is all, in both those sets of meeting rules are just designed to make sure the meeting is orderly and it proceeds. So.
I didn't see that language on when I looked up the procedures, but I can find that and include it.
Yeah, there was a separate.
There's two separate sheets that actually deal with this. One was designed for media.
Twice.
No recording devices allowed.
well, we have people walking around.
We're standing up, standing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. I was.
And that's what I said. It didn't have anything to do with content or prohibiting anybody from recording. They can record all they like. They simply have to use common sense and not disrupt the meeting.
The disrupting of the meeting part is the key there. Outside of that, I'm fine with who wants to record and take pictures. I'm not worried about that, but I know there's gonna be media there. So, I mean, it's kind of hard to say, no, you can't.
Right.
Of course, I don't expect any members of the media to be disruptive.
I was gonna say, they're going to be professionals that'll be there. But
And that's the key. I think the professional media appreciate that kind of thing because then the people that maybe are doing it as a hobby the professional media want to know the same standard that applies to them is going to apply to others. So.
Do you want to have a sign-in sheet or do we?
I don't. I think that's, the chair can call on people and they'll come up.
Well, I mean, typically in previous meetings when we had them out in the county, we just put a piece of paper up there for people to sign in when they walk up, but it's up to the board. It doesn't matter. We don't have to.
I don't need to keep track of who.
Yeah.
A name and an address necessarily. That's not what we're there for. We're there for to get the context out of it.
Yeah.
As long as we've got a fair set of, I don't want to say rule boundaries in which to operate from, I'm good with that.
There's procedures. It's important to have procedures in place. And so everyone knows and everyone gets the same opportunity is really what it's intended for.
I've seen one of these meetings go south pretty quick on an item.
And it's really, what it's really for is when you have pros and cons for both sides to get equal time is what it's really for. It's not about the commission and one side. It's when you have two sides. And so no one can get more of a favor than someone else.
Like I say, meetings that I previously have gone to, not been a problem. People have been very orderly.
Okay, sounds good to me.
Okay.
Thanks, Evan. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
I thought we were having mug shots.
Yeah. Are we doing that still?
We certainly can. If you are ready, I'll go grab the camera.
Actually, I think today's probably going to be the best day of probably all. So yeah.
Okay, I'll go grab it.
Okay.
Well, we can probably do that individually after they adjourn.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Do we have to make a motion on this?
Hoping my mug shot comes out better than the one that's in the paper yesterday.
Oh, is there one?
Susie Carlson.
Not a him, of Susie Carlson.
Susie Carlson, the
Oh,
representative.
yeah. Yeah.
I don't have anything else myself.
I have no additional business, commissioners.
Nothing from me.
Then I'll go ahead and make a motion that we adjourn the February 3rd, 2022 meeting of the Riley County Commission.
I would second that.
And moving seconded to adjourn the